Welcome back. I can't without the big Democrat to fold as Republicans instantly reject Chuck Schumer's trap to end shutdown. This is 22 hours ago, so let's get into the video.
By $4 trillion over the long term. Reducing the waste inefficiency in Medicare and Medicaid will pay for most of this plan. It will slow the growth of healthcare costs for our families, our businesses, and our government. There will be a provision in this plan that requires us to come forward with more spending cuts if the savings we promised don't materialize.
Much later.
I owe you an answer on why it is I'm standing here today asking to extend something that was temporary. And here's the reason. We did fail to bring down the cost of health care.
All right, guys, so we've had testing day. The Democrats came out with some...
Whoa. Hold the presses. Did the Democrats just admit they failed to bring costs down when Obama was in the White House? Whoever knows? Whoever gets this? Oh, wait. I know. We Republicans did that. We Republicans predicted this shit to happen. But we would call racism, racist, bigoted, white supremacists. But look what we predicted right. Back to the video.
Some ridiculous proposal. It took us about 0.3 seconds to say no deal. What they were offering wasn't even a real proposal, and they know it. And once again, it is proven that they are not interested in opening the government. We just now had an opportunity for them to at least pay essential employees and all the essential programs. Guess what? Nope. They all said no. Why? Because it's politics. You can't make sense out of what they're doing right now because they got Chucky Schumer leading them in this political fight. Once again, guys, we're still here fighting every single day. It's a privilege, and it's also frustrating at sometimes. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to fight for the great state of Oklahoma.
Boy. So another day, which means another video about the Democrat shutdown, okay, that they have orchestrated in order to please the radical left lunatics in their party, right? They are holding the country hostage because they don't want to lose their jobs to the radical left. And Democrats are fighting for a healthcare system that is literally making everybody's healthcare more expensive in this country. Okay, I want to remind people that Obamacare is the reason why your premiums are going up. Okay, and Democrats are simply just fighting to put a band-aid on a system that is massively corrupt in favor of insurance companies because you socialize the costs, you privatize the profits, and what you get is what we got right now, which is a complete and total disaster that's not even worth saving, to be honest with you guys.
Give you a quick update on the Senate hearing that was led by Ron Johnson today regarding the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. And there were several individuals who testified and basically kind of confirmed what I've already been telling all of you, is that the system, the exchanges, Affordable Care Act exchanges in each individual state has largely been rigged. And essentially what's happened, what has been incentivized by the Affordable Care Act is this consolidation of healthcare providers within the individual regions and in individual states. And what that means is a lot of hospitals that are owned by insurance companies went in and bought doctors. So it's the same doctor, it's just now that doctor is affiliated with a hospital and can charge a higher rate. And so because they can charge these higher rates, they have increased the cost of insurance, and worse yet. So if you go look at the ACA exchanges in any state, for example, in California, I was shopping around the ACA plans, you're going to see that most of the plans are garbage HMO plans, and there's a reason for that. So because they bought these providers and hospitals, they can package up basically these providers, call them in-network, and they're limited providers in a particular jurisdiction area of California, for example. And so they get to charge insane rates for the premiums. They own the doctors. You cannot go outside, typically outside of the network, to access any doctor. And so the coverage you're getting is basically it's not the best coverage is if we were to have the open exchange. So if we were to have an open free market exchange, I think that would actually give us better access to doctors. And you got to keep in mind too, a lot of these doctors are not allowed to take cash pay patients, so that has also increased cost because in order to have a contract with a doctor in an insurance company and be considered in network, you have to agree to not take cash pay patients. And I think many of you are going to see these videos of cash pay doctors on social media who are offering their own sort of health coverage in a lot of respects because that is cheaper. And so when we hear of a lot of the rural hospitals in rural areas being decimated, it's decimated because of this Affordable Care Act system that we put in place and the consolidations by the hospitals, eating up and buying the providers and then pre-packaging those into garbage HMO insurance plans that are also that are owned by they own the hospitals, they own the providers now, and now they own the insurance that they're selling you these plans on. So anyways, it's unfortunate what we are having to deal with as far as access to healthcare right now. I don't know how that would be fixed, and so that's kind of what was the next step in the hearing, is how do we fix this? And those questions are largely unanswered right now.
Yeah, in my opinion, just my humble opinion, I think that the way you fix it is that you dismantle Obamacare. You get rid of it, and I'm not saying that you get rid of it all at one time, but there has to be an off-ramp, okay, in order to get us back to a more free market oriented healthcare system, right? Let's actually bring the free market back, because what we have right now is not the free market. It is socialism for big doctors, big hospitals, big insurance company, and big pharma, right? That is what it is, okay? That's the honest to God truth. Democrats are fighting on behalf of big companies, okay, to pad their profits off the backs of taxpayers in order to give people who don't want to work and illegal immigrants free health care that's not really free. And that continues to drive up the cost for everybody. And Democrats don't have a solution to this outside of a Band-Aid, right? And that is what the Obamacare subsidies that happened during COVID, that's what they were. They were a Band-Aid in order to hide the problem of Obamacare, which is that it is completely and totally unsustainable. So with that being said, Democrats are now magically back at the table, right? They're now back at the table and they're ready to negotiate opening up the government, as if there's anything to negotiate with these clowns. But they want to, quote unquote, negotiate, right? And we know that they orchestrated this shutdown. They orchestrated taking away people's food stamps. They orchestrated not paying the military. They orchestrated not paying our federal workers in order to motivate the far-left lunatics to get out and vote, because they blamed it all on Trump, okay? And up until this point, I can't lie to you guys, they've won the optics battle when it comes to this, and I'm going to explain how the GOP can actually change this moving forward into the future. But they have essentially caused all of these problems. They're the ones that, again, created Obamacare. They're the ones that decided that the subsidies would run out, that they would be temporary. And again, they're doing this in order to have leverage over Republicans, right? That's what they're doing. They're using it as leverage. And they made it very clear that this is a political game that they're playing with people's lives, because the counteroffer to have the government opened up that was presented by Chuck Schumer was a poison pill that no sane person would ever accept, because Chuck Schumer wants to open back up the government, but only if Republicans agree to extending the Obamacare subsidies by 1 year, right before the midterm. Take a look.
Reopens. Therefore, we'd like to offer a simple proposal that would reopen the government and extend the ACA premium tax credits simultaneously, and then have the opportunity to start negotiating longer-term solutions to healthcare costs. Let's do all three. I've spoken with my caucus, and Democrats are offering a very simple compromise. Democrats are ready to clear the way to quickly pass a government funding bill that includes healthcare affordability. Leader Thune just needs to add a clean 1-year extension of the ACA tax credits to the CR so that we can immediately address rising healthcare costs. That's not a negotiation. It's an extension of current law, something we do all the time around here, as we all know. But we also offer this. Let's create a bipartisan committee that will continue negotiations after the government reopens on reforms ahead of next year's enrollment period to provide long-term certainty that healthcare costs will be more affordable. This proposal reopens the government and ensures working families who are shopping right now for their health care get certainty and financial relief.
Yeah, so what you have here is just an admission from Democrats that this is a game. This game, anybody with two brain cells to rub together can listen to what Chuck Schumer just said and said, wait, what? You want to extend the subsidies by 1 year. So basically you want to do this again next year. Why do you want to do it again next year? Well, again, because next year, that's when the midterms are. Now, again, Democrats, you can argue successfully, have used this as leverage, right? The decision that they made to make the Obamacare subsidies expire during this time, in 2025, you can argue that, hey, that was successful. That helped them out, right, during this past election. So now they're trying to extend the subsidies for 1 year in order to do it again next year. Which tells you what this, again, is all about. This is about winning elections. This is not about any type of long-term solution. This is not about providing long-term relief to Americans or, protecting their health care long-term. It's not about that at all. Because if it was about that, then why are you doing it for 1 year? Why not 2 years? Why not 5 years? Why just a year? Because it's a game to them. They want to make the midterms about Obamacare, the subsidies. Because they know, they see that people are getting letters in the mail saying that, hey, without these subsidies, your premium is going to rise. Now, again, the reason why the premiums are rising really is because of the subsidies. But again, people, it's hard to explain that to normies, right? People aren't educated on this stuff. But that's all they know. That's what people know. And Democrats are taking advantage of people's ignorance on this and trying to use it as leverage against Republicans in order to win elections, to save their jobs. And this is the type of shit that pisses me off about politics. They play too many games with people's lives. And the funny part about this is that it's stuff like this that makes me really, really, really root for the GOP to just don't capitulate to these people at all. Let them continue to tell us and explain why you're going to keep the government shut down, right? Just keep explaining it, because the more they explain it, the more they talk about it, the more it becomes apparent that, hey, y'all playing games. That this is just about politics and it's not about what y'all say it's about. Even Charlemagne the God, aka Charlemagne the Devil, even Charlemagne is calling out Democrats and telling them, hey, stop playing games, open up the government. People's lives are being affected by your games. Everybody can see that this is political for you guys.
Dems, you had a great night last night. The premiums have already gone up. They are set for the year. It's time to move on. We appreciate the fight, the valiant effort, but come on, man. People got rent due. Yeah. People got child care to pay for, light bills, card notes. I feel for all those federal workers who have missed 2 paychecks already, especially when most of them are living paycheck to paycheck. People not getting their SNAP benefits. It's time to reopen the government. I don't care whose fault it was. Let's stop playing politics with people's lives.
People mad at you for saying that. They feel like the Democrats should fight. But what's the reason you're saying the fight is over?
The fight is over because the premiums have already gone up and they're set for the year. And now you have a whole group of people, which are federal workers, who have already missed 2 paychecks. Mm-hmm. So I understand that, you don't want high health care premiums, but what about people who can't pay their rent right now? Mm-hmm. Right? About people who can't pay their car notes right now? People who can't pay their daycare? I don't care whose fault it is or was. Let's stop playing politics with people's lives, man. Let's reopen the government. We can still have this fight about health care while the government is open.
Yeah, if Charlemagne can see this, then I'm sure that if you're the average American and you're paying attention and you're not a complete and total Democrat Party shield, because I understand why Democrat Party shields are pretending as if this is Republicans' fault, right? But again, if you're the average person, right, you're not a complete and total partisan hack. If somebody like Charlemagne can see it, I'm sure that normal people can see it, right? And again, this is part of the reason why I think Republicans need to stick to their guns and just force Democrats to continue to explain to the American people, why is it that you only want these extensions for a year, right? Why only a year? Tell us, Democrats. Tell us why you only want it for a year, right? Because again, why would you want to put the American people through this again next year? It's about politics. And if that is what Democrats are going to do, right, if that's the message they're going to put out there, then I think that plays in favor of Republicans. Republicans clearly are not going to get on board with this because, again, everybody knows that this is a poison pill.
What is your response to Chuck Schumer's proposal here to keep those ACA benefits going for another year, bipartisan committee to work on those, and reopen the government with a clean CR?
God, please give me patience, because if you give me strength, I'm going to need bail money. What Senator Schumer is suggesting is that we do the dumbest thing possible that won't work. Stupid should hurt more. Senator Schumer says we should just extend the status quo for a year. What does that mean? That means that we would have to take $35 billion of taxpayer money and give it directly to the health insurance companies without any commitment of lowering premiums. How is that going to reduce health care costs? How's that going to reduce premiums? The health care companies are going to take $35 billion from the taxpayers and put it into their pockets. I mean, duh. I don't know what Senator Schumer is thinking. Earth to Chuck. Earth to Chuck. Am I going to vote for this? The short answer is no. The long answer is hell no. I think we're just going to have to get used to the fact that we've been in a shutdown. We're going to be in a shutdown for a while. I voted 14 times to lift the shutdown. The Democrats and Senator Rand Paul have voted 14 times to keep the government shut down. We're just going to be here for a while.
Okay, it doesn't seem like what Senator Schumer just proposed is really any different than where Democrats have been all along. They wanted $1.5 trillion. You say $36 billion. I guess there's a lot of different numbers on this package, but to keep the Obamacare benefits were expanded during COVID, and of course, once you give something, very hard to claw it back. So that's where we are right now, and so the impact of having that extension pulled away is making people's new health care benefits rise. But as you say, it's not fixing the problem in terms of lowering costs. Is there any, I just spoke with the former Governor Sununu, and he said, what they need to do is accept Senator Thune's next proposal and agree on it and get Democrats across the board on it. What do you think that is going to look like?
He's just going to bring up the same resolution that he's brought up 14 times. Look, if we've learned anything during this shutdown, we've learned that the Obamacare Affordable Care Act exchanges, they're not working. They're not lowering health care costs. Extending the status quo will just be putting fresh paint on rotten wood.
So
we want to do that.
Excuse me. President Trump has a solution, and he talked about it again today.
President Trump does have a solution, and I want to talk about President Trump's solution because I think that under a very specific set of circumstances, does the solution that President Trump is proposing make sense and may be worth doing. And I'm going to talk about it. So without further ado, go ahead and roll this clip.
Remember, Republicans, regardless of the Schumer shutdown, the Democrats will terminate the filibuster the first chance they get. They will pack the Supreme Court of the United States, pick up 2 states, that's a lot of states, and add at least 8 electoral votes. Their 2 objectors are gone, remember? Sinema and Manchin, they're gone. Don't be weak, don't be stupid, Republicans. Fight, 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 win, win, win. We will immediately end the extortionist shutdown, get all of our agenda passed, and make life so good for Americans that these deranged Democrat politicians will never again have the chance to destroy America. They tried to destroy your country. Republicans